Hey, good morning. This is Joe from Citrus County Porch Life, bringing you the daily word for men for March. And before we start with that, I'd like to read the prayer that begins the month of March. It's from Isaiah 41, verse 10. Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. And the word for today, March 1st, 2025, is polite. Remind them to never tear down anyone with their words or quarrel, but instead be considerate, humble, and courteous to everyone. And that is from Titus chapter 3, verse 2, the TPT. Still haven't found out what that means. And here's a daily commentary. Did you ever take science and have to calculate potential energy using mass, gravity, and height? Remember that from way back in high school? Not many of us do, but when we learn what it means to be civil and how to be considerate to others, we do remember it. Why? Because encountering people is something we do every day. Additionally, remembering anything tied to emotion, having human interaction makes it much easier to recall. Our memory and emotions function out of the same region of the brain. Being polite is something God favors over the discourteous and argumentative. He wants us to represent Him in the way we act and speak, in our hurried states, or sometimes just when we are annoyed. We speak out or act rudely. We can change this by going back to the basics, slowing down and treating people, no matter who, with respect. And the question for us today is, in those times you got annoyed or are too busy, how can you remind yourself to slow down and demonstrate civility? Well, I would say this. Uh, as an RN, I accept people as they are, some experiencing the worst time of their lives. Uh, they'll never have a worse day than when I encounter them. Some of the victims of tragic accidents, some shot. So I have to accept them as they are, and they might not be too nice. Well, all the time, I must be nice. Can't lose my temper. And I gotta say, I've been in the hospital a lot. In 2013, I was just in ICU itself for more than 3 months. And everybody treated me very well, was very courteous to me. And, I learned, I was in neurointensive care, and I worked in neurointensive care. And that's an area where there's very little communication with the patients because they're very seriously ill. And most of them can't talk. And I sit between two. It goes like this, and I'm right in the middle, and I stay there the whole day. I have to be relieved to go to the bathroom, relieved for lunch. If I don't get relieved, I don't leave my patients. And it's you have a long learning curve learning how to keep those machines going if they're on breathing machines and all this different equipment, and keep the patient alive. You don't get a chance to speak to them, as I mentioned, but the family doesn't notice that. If they come in and you're giving the patient a bath, they look how gently you wash their feet or their face, how you talk to them when you're doing it, how you treat them with respect. And that's what counts to them. And that's what counts to most people. No one ever said to me, boy, you do a good job operating those machines. No one ever said that. And for people that have recovered, they've come back and say, thank you for being so gentle with me and helping me out so much. So I suppose that's a form of politeness, courteousness, knowing that could be my family member, that could be me, and eventually it was me in 2013, which ended my career, but I still hold my license. I could not raise my head. There was a leak in my cerebral spinal fluid, and just raising my head 10% caused the most extreme headaches. Unbelievable. They were the type, you hear, well, I should have banged my head against the wall, it would have hurt less. And truly it was that kind of pain. And luckily when I called out, I had a regular pain pump, personal analgesia, but that was not enough to cover the pain. And they gave me it every time I wanted. They didn't try to say that I was getting too much, and I never had a problem. It's when I got out of the hospital, that was it. And so I appreciate the way they handled me. And I wasn't always totally conscious. There were times when I wasn't. I went to a Roman Catholic school for boys, and I was out for a good, semi-conscious for a good week. Just, I don't know what I was thinking. I was like floating in space, and someone came in and said to me, Joseph, let us remember that we were in the holy presence of God. And in my mind, I'm thinking, did I die? Am I going to heaven? Is this? Because that was every single class that we had at this school, we would start it out with the teacher, usually a Christian brother, or a lay teacher would say, let us remember, gentlemen, let us remember that we were in the holy presence of God. Well, it turned out that one of the chaplains was a year behind me, but knew me because I was a swimmer. And when he saw my name, he wanted to come in and pray over me. And just by saying those words, gentlemen, Joseph, rather, let us remember that we were in the holy presence of God, I woke up. I came out of the stupor that I was in. And I'll never forget that. And another reason for being nice is tearing down people never does anyone any good. You may feel superior, but you didn't take the high road. You may have got one over on them, but it's kind of like a Pyrrhic victory. So you got one over on them being impolite and letting them know how you felt, but in the end, you lost the war. And many times, I've had patients, I didn't know what their story was. They may not have been so compromised they were in ICU, because they floated us from ICU to neurosurgery, people like a step-down unit from ICU, and you don't know what their story is. You have no way of knowing. They're presented to you with like a non-traumatic shot in the head. If they moved them out of ICU quickly, if they were stable, they got them out of there, and they'd take the bullet out if they could, and you deal with them. So you never know their story. Never, ever, ever And that's my policy. Always be polite. Treat people with the respect that you would want, as if they were a family member or a close relative or a good friend. So that's it for me today. Have a safe and holy Saturday, and we will see you tomorrow.